So a little while ago, I was going to make a video talking about Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and the FIBA World Cup, but with a lot of noise surrounding the Nets as well as players in the FIBA World Cup, it feels like now is a more fitting time to talk about the Nets, their future, and one particular article from TheRinger.com. If you enjoyed this video though, then please give it a like, and if you're new to the channel, then hit that subscribe button and notification bell to stay up to date with my content. So let's start off with the article I mentioned in the intro. This came from TheRinger.com and is titled The 8 Biggest Questions Ahead of the FIBA World Cup. This was posted on August 24th, and the World Cup has obviously already started if you're up to date with basketball, but this article isn't necessarily time sensitive. The first question is Anthony Edwards approaching superstardom, which I would say is clearly a yes. He hit the star level in the 2022 playoffs in my eyes and will probably hit superstar level during this season if he hasn't already with how he's playing in the World Cup. Questions 2 and 3 are kind of silly in my eyes. This Team USA team in the FIBA World Cup is just filled with talent and should win gold, and I know Shai is on Team Canada, but still, I think if you just look at how Ant Edwards has played, I think it's a bit silly to ask if USA is going to win the gold. However, I want to focus on question number 4. Who's teaming up after this experience? As accurately pointed out in this excerpt, the 2008 Olympics were the fulcrum that led to LeBron James, Wade, and Bosh joining forces in Miami, while Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving connected on the team in 2016. I personally believe that the 2019 All-Star Game had more to do with Kyrie and Durant teaming up because it was reported in October or November of 2018 that Kyrie and Jimmy Butler wanted to team up, so I think the All-Star Game kind of shifted that dynamic. However, yes, Durant, Irving, and even DeAndre Jordan, who they brought with them to Brooklyn, all played in the 2016 Olympics. Continuing on though, this group doesn't necessarily have the ingredients to produce a big 3-level bang, but there are potential partnerships that could make some serious noise. So I do pretty much agree with that. However, I do think if we look at it from the Nets perspective, a duo of Ant Edwards and Mikal Bridges could be very good. Ultimately, I think Mikal Bridges, as he is now, is more of a 3 option on a championship team and does have the potential to become a 2nd option level player. So we'll see how his development continues this season. But you got to remember, he just turned 27 years old the other day, so he's not necessarily young anymore, and I'm not sure how much more room for growth he has. Cam Johnson, who the Nets just gave a 4-year, $94.5 million contract to, is ultimately a 4th or 5th option on a championship team in my eyes. So while I think the Nets landing a star could make them a contender, a lot of it is dependent on Bridges' continued development as well as just Johnson's growth. But once again, he's also a player who's not getting any younger, as he'll be 28 years old in March. However, staying on the topic of players teaming up, the New York Knicks have 3 of Mikal Bridges' close friends from his alma mater of Villanova, with Dante DiVincenzo joining the Knicks this offseason, and the other 2 guys, Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, playing with Bridges in the FIBA World Cup. So the Knicks are a huge threat to steal Bridges away from the Nets if the Nets don't extend Bridges' contract or land a star prior to Bridges hitting free agency in 2026. If Bridges does remain in Brooklyn long term, then let's look at this passage that asks, could Bridges be a magnet to attract players to the Nets who have the allure of a big market, an owner with a bottomless wallet, and the draft picks and cap flexibility to accommodate multiple stars? Now, the Nets can potentially land a star or superstar in free agency, but with so many guys requesting trades as of late, the Nets might have their eyes on trading for a star rather than signing one. Many players, including Giannis and Embiid to name some, have their sights set on potentially playing for the New York Knicks. But if trades don't work out with New York, the Knicks' little brother in Brooklyn might be able to swoop in and use the appeal of New York, or more specifically Brooklyn, to land one of those 2 guys. The Nets do have some solid trade assets as a result of the KD and Kyrie trades. However, one asset the Nets hold with 0 value that could increase is Ben Simmons. It goes without saying, Ben Simmons was extremely disappointing for the Nets last season, and from January to the end of the season, he hindered the team's play, to put it nicely. Last season, Simmons averaged 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists across the board, and from January to April, Simmons only played 16 games where he averaged 5.1 points on 48% shooting from the field, 46% shooting from the free throw line, along with 5.7 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and a plus-minus rating of -1.3 when he was on the floor. But hey, the 1.3 steals are just about the only bright spot for a guy set to make $37 million next season. Like we see every offseason, Ben Simmons is once again shooting jumpers in practice, but now he's mentioned he's working on spot-up threes and even say he would kill the version of himself that we saw last season and dominate him one-on-one. We'll revisit that quote later on in the season during a video, but I'm not holding my breath, and I'd rather go into the season with no expectations of Simmons and be surprised if anything comes about. Also, I do want to mention it seems Bridges and Austin Reeves are building a pretty good relationship, and when asked about teaming up with his FIBA teammates in the NBA, Reeves said, "I can't speak on that, but I like some of the guys we're playing with, so yeah." I don't see Reeves playing anywhere other than LA anytime soon, with him signing a 4-year contract this summer, but it felt like something I should include anyway, with him being questioned and seeming open to play with his FIBA teammates on an NBA court. Ultimately, the Nets are in the weirdest position of possibly any team in the league. They're not bad, they're not great, and we've only seen 5 players on their roster play full seasons as Nets, which are Claxton, Dinwiddie, O'Neal, Sharp, and Thomas. Ultimately, as Doug Norrie, go give him a follow if you're a Nets fan, pointed out here, Cam Johnson had the 3rd highest usage rating on the Nets among starters behind Bridges and Dinwiddie. And ultimately, I don't think Dinwiddie is in the Nets' cards long term, so I'd like to see the Nets get Johnson's usage rating up to at least 23% like Doug pointed out, or maybe even higher, especially after Johnson was just given $94.5 million. I like every player on the Nets roster, I just don't know if they have enough to grab a top 6 seed and get into the playoffs without the play-in tournament. Lonnie Walker was a fantastic signing in my eyes, so I'd like to say look out for him, and I think the 3 rookies as well as Bazley, Watford, Brooks, and potentially even Dennis Smith Jr. could be guys that stand out and do enough to grab long-term extensions with the Nets. Also, it was reported that the Nets will be signing Harry Giles, and he's another low-risk, high-reward player who I can see staying with the Nets long-term. Giles hasn't played in the NBA since the 2020-21 season, but after a solid showing in leagues this summer and his summer workouts, I'm very interested to see if Giles can carve out a home and a role for himself with the Nets. Ultimately, the Nets are where no team wants to be. Not bad enough for a top pick, but not good enough to contend. But they're clearly pushing all their cards to the center of the table and betting on Bridges and the rest of their core with the hopes that they can land a star in the near future. And while I would have preferred for the team to go for a straight-up rebuild rather than a retool, I hope I'm wrong and luck finally goes the Nets' way. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Nets or anything I talked about today, and of course, if you enjoyed the video, then make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. I'm SCJ, and I am out. Peace.